Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the first half of my NCAA Top 25 list. We are going to finish that up here in this segment. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net, or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much taking time out of your busy Labor Day to talk some sports with me. But like I was saying, we are going to finish up the college football top 25 rankings. We'll have an official ranking tomorrow that we will go over as well. But getting back into the list, just to quickly review, Georgia 1, Texas 2, Ohio State 3, Alabama 4, Notre Dame 5, Ole Miss 6, Penn State 7, Oregon 8, Missouri 9, Utah 10, Tennessee 11, and Miami at 12. From there, at 13, I'm putting USC, a massive win, a big day for Miller Moss. Everything that we talked about in the first segment there applies here. They're up 10 spots from 23, taking the spot where LSU was sitting before. I was just really impressed by their defense. Obviously, the offense, Miller Moss, that last second touchdown run is going to steal the headlines, but holding a team like LSU to just 20 points is huge for them. A team that struggled mightily on defense. Miller Moss looked really good in the pocket as well, being able to handle the pressure in his face, make accurate throws throughout the night, not turning the ball over. USC is a dangerous team. They're up 10 spots to 13. At 14, we have Oklahoma. Oklahoma's another one of those teams that just kind of dominated when they were supposed to. They went up and played the Temple Owls, or I should say Temple came to them. They win 51-3. This is exactly what they should. This is exactly what we expect out of them. This is a team that should dominate. This is a team that is just doing its job. They are up 2 spots to replace some teams that did not do their job. Up 2 spots as well, and right behind them, their in-state rivals, the Oklahoma State. Excuse me. Oklahoma State beats a tough FCS opponent. Now, FCS as it is, South Dakota State got handed their first loss in 29 games. They're now 29-1 in their last 30 games. They had won back-to-back national championships at the FCS level. They were a very good team, but it never really got close. We've had issues with Oklahoma State teams keeping it close against lesser opponents. Ollie Gordon went off. He did his thing. He always was going to do his thing. He's a Heisman contender here. Oklahoma State is up 2 spots to number 15. And at 16 is where we finally check in with Michigan, a team that did end up winning their game 30-10 over Fresno State, but it looked really, really bad. They were in danger of losing this game. They kept it really close until the end, where they started to pull away, scoring 2 touchdowns, just scoring 2 touchdowns in the last 6 minutes of the game. They finally looked like they got something clicking, but the offense never really felt like it had anything going. One of those touchdowns was a pick 6 to really put the game out of reach, but this Michigan team really just doesn't have the same juice. The running game, which was supposed to be the running game, never really got it going. They didn't have any of those explosive runs that Michigan is usually built on. They obviously lost a lot of pieces. They lost a head coach. They're under investigation for a lot of different things right now. This is not a good start for a Michigan Wolverines team that kind of needed some momentum. 30-10 victory over Fresno State. I have them dropping 7 spots to 16. Up 4 is Arizona. Arizona's up 4 from 21, sitting at 17 in my rankings. I love this Arizona team. I was high on them. I believe I had them. I had them predicted to get to the playoffs here as well. Arizona is one of those teams that could go on a run. Obviously, with Ted McMillan, T-Mac doing his thing, 4 touchdowns, 304 yards. That's unnatural. Now, going up against New Mexico, it's not a great opponent, but being able to dominate so thoroughly, especially in that second half, the defense kind of locked in, and we saw what Noah Fifita and T-Mac could do as a combo. That's a scary team, especially their offense. Now, they're going to get in a lot of shootouts. Their defense is a little shaky, but if that offense can keep it up, there's not a lot of teams that can keep up with them. At 18, we have K-State, Kansas State. Again, they did their thing. They're standing pat at where they were. They beat up on UT Martin 41-6. Just a really solid game from K-State. There were issues, of course. You start off a little bit slower than you would have liked. It wasn't domination the entire way out, only putting up 3 points in that second quarter. But this is a team that is proving why they're up there in the conversation with the Big 12, with Arizona and Utah as well. At 19 is where LSU check in. Our first 0-1 team of the day. They fall down to 19, 6 spots down in the rankings. And they'd only fall minimally 6 spots because USC is a very good team. Probably the best 2 opponents that played each other this entire week was LSU, USC. LSU ends up losing. One of them had to end up losing. LSU only falls 6 spots. Again, I talked about it a little bit in the first segment, but LSU is a very good team. I was impressed with their defense. I was impressed with their quarterback play. Their offense still has a long way to go. There's still a lot of room for improvement on this LSU team, but this is an LSU team that still deserves to be in the top 25. They played a tough game at a neutral site, and they took it to the wire. This is a game that both teams played really well in. So they stay in the top 25, stay in the top 20, LSU down to 19. At number 20, we have Kansas. Again, just another team that took care of business against a team they were supposed to take care of business against. The number 22 ranked Kansas Jayhawks just dominated the whole game. Kansas State moves up 2 spots. Again, we're starting to get to these teams that lost. Kansas was better than those teams that lost to teams that were unranked. They were just a little lower on the rankings. 48-3 over Lindenwood. No reason to move them down. They're up 2 spots to number 20. At 21, we have Florida State. Here we are, another 0-1 team, and we'll see if they've improved. Maybe the game in Ireland was a fluke. They played a solid Georgia Tech team, that is on the rise. They're 2-0 now, in consideration to possibly make that jump into the top 25. We'll see what happens as we get lower down on these rankings. But Florida State at 21, they're still a really good team. There's a lot of things that they need to work on, and we'll see tonight if the game in Ireland was just a fluke. I'm keeping them in the top 20 for now, but they're down 11 spots to 21. That might change. I might have to redo the rankings after tonight, though. At 22, Iowa moves up 3 spots. Iowa scored 40 points, and that is the most amount of points that they've scored in over 2 seasons. They had 3 receiving touchdowns by a wide receiver or a tight end. That is tied for the most that they've had in any of the last 2 seasons. They had 2 in 2022, 3 in 2023. That is a ridiculously low number. The defense continued to do its thing. They started slow. It wasn't perfect, but the offense is going a little bit. And if they can keep this momentum up, maybe clean things up a little bit. They had a bunch of turnover-worthy plays that just did not get turned over. Maybe they can do some things. At number 23, I have Texas A&M. Texas A&M falls 3 spots. They played a really good Notre Dame team. We talked about how I really liked their defense, what they were able to hold really the entirety of that Notre Dame offense to just 23 points. A lot of that coming in the last 2 minutes. Kind of collapsed there at the end. That defensive line is one of the best in the country. Maybe they can get a little support from the offense. If they can hold a team like Notre Dame to 20 points, they should be able to win most games. So I'm keeping them in the top 25. And then we have another loser. Clemson falls 10 spots to spot 24 on the list, and I really thought about taking them out. But I don't think I could penalize them that harshly because they went up against the number 1 team in the country. We talked about how Dabo Swinney has his problems, how it's just a mess over there, really. He needs to start using the transfer portal. It really shows in how he's just mismatched against a really strong opponent. But Clemson's a good team. They showed that they could hang tough with Georgia, at least in that first half, until Georgia figured it out. Dabo just needs to use the transfer portal. They're sitting in at 24. And at 25, we have our first new team in the top 25. Louisville, a team that I'm really high on, jumps into the top 25. I know maybe you thought it should be Georgia Tech there. They're the first team out for me, actually. But Louisville jumps in. They're a team that I've been really high on. They win 62-0 in week 1. Now, we saw Florida State, that reliance on the transfer portal, sometimes it backfires. Louisville looked really good. Lots of things were clicking. They're real title contenders in the ACC, especially with everything else that's been going on outside of Miami. The ACC is a mess. Louisville might be able to make some noise there. That means NC State is a team that falls out of the top 25. They end up getting a 38-21 victory over a team that they probably should have beat by more. I'm just not convinced by NC State. A couple other teams I thought about putting into the top 25. We'll put this in the receiving votes section. Georgia Tech, of course, a big win over Georgia State, a big win over Florida State. That's two straight solid wins. Georgia State obviously not as much up there as Florida State is. We'll see where Florida State is after here, but Georgia Tech is sitting at that 26th ranked spot for me. Nebraska, Dylan Raiola looked really good. You got those Patrick Mahomes comparisons, obviously training with him. Looks a lot like him. Where's his number? Where's the right color? Dylan Raiola looks solid for Nebraska. Boise State also looked really good. We talked about Gentry scoring 6 touchdowns last over the weekend on Saturday. Insane performance to keep them ahead of Georgia Southern. Another solid Sun Belt team. Sun Belt is a pretty good Group of 5 conference this year. Boise State, NC State, Nebraska, Georgia Tech all get those receiving vote section, but Louisville ends up at spot 25 for me at least. Let me know what you think of my list. Georgia won, Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Penn State, Oregon, Missouri, Utah are the top 10. If there's anything you thought I was way off on, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to start an NFL power rankings. We got 32-1 here today. We're going to go through the preseason power rankings. We're going to do this every single Monday. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.